Have you ever felt like you're waiting for something that never seems to come? Like your life is on pause, while everything around you keeps moving? Have you ever wondered why God is silent, even when your heart is crying out for answers? Maybe that's exactly where you are right now. And maybe, just maybe, this pause isn't a delay, it's preparation, a divine realignment. It's hard to explain what happens inside when everything outside feels stuck. You wake up and go to sleep with the feeling that you're still in the same place. Days go by, but the scenery doesn't change. Your prayers feel like they don't reach heaven, and the question echoing deep within your soul is always the same. God, when will things change? But the answer doesn't come, and God's silence, it hurts more than any noise. You look around and see people moving forward, receiving, achieving, while you wait. You wait without even knowing exactly what for, and that hurts, because it feels like you've been forgotten. Like everyone was called, except you. But what no one sees is what you've been holding in. How many times you've cried alone? How many times you've thought about giving up? How many times you've smiled with a broken heart? This season of waiting has been tearing pieces of you away. People have left. Doors have closed. Things that used to make sense suddenly dissolved, and you were forced to let go, to release, even without understanding, even while begging for it to stay. It feels like the entire universe is in motion, except you. But what you may not have realized yet is that God is not punishing you. He's purifying you. He's removing what no longer serves the purpose of what He's about to build in you. Because this pause is not absence, it's preparation. And what feels like abandonment is, in truth, care. The care of a father who loves so deeply that he'd rather wound you now than lose you later. You clicked on this video for a reason far greater than you realize. Something inside you senses that deep change is coming, but not the way the world teaches. It's the way heaven transforms. There's a rebuilding taking place, a purification. And what once seemed slow is actually God's exact pace toward your new beginning. Have you ever felt like you're unlearning how to be yourself? Like the old version of you that held everything together is falling apart, and now you no longer know how to act, what to feel, or where to go? Maybe you've found yourself forcing smiles, wearing masks just to survive, trying to convince others, and even yourself, that everything is fine. When deep inside, you're in pieces, and it's in that invisible crack that the enemy tries to slip in, whispering lies. You're alone. Nothing's going to change. God forgot about you. That voice, it's cruel, because it shows up when you're at your most vulnerable, when you're already out of strength, out of direction, out of motivation, and all you wanted was a sign, a hug, some relief. But instead came yet another closed door, another separation, more silence. And in those moments, faith feels small, hope feels fragile, life feels too heavy. Maybe you've even started doubting who you are, wondering if you messed up too badly, if you prayed too little, if you went too far to still be rescued. Maybe you're trying to understand why everything that used to be solid in your life now feels shaky, like even your certainties are collapsing. But what you don't see is that God is not punishing you. He's tearing down what you built without Him. God is removing the human scaffolding to rebuild you from the ground up, but this time with eternal foundations. And this process hurts. It hurts because it shakes everything you thought you were. It hurts because it requires you to trust without understanding. And trusting without understanding is one of the most painful and courageous acts of faith. You've been rejected, misunderstood, abandoned by those who were supposed to stand beside you. And even so, you kept going. Even with a heart in ruins, you kept walking. That's not weakness. That's spiritual courage. That's sacred endurance. And that's exactly why God chose you. You might not see it yet, but something sacred is happening in this silence. God hasn't left you. He's working behind the scenes of the invisible, in the details you can't see. What feels like a delay is actually protection. He's hiding you while he prepares the stage for your transformation. Maybe you're in a season of waiting, but this time isn't empty. It's a time of purification, of alignment, of reconstruction. Like a tree that loses all its leaves before it blooms. You're going through the process of shedding what's external, so that something internal can be reborn stronger. The old temple is being torn down, but not to destroy you, to rebuild a new temple with living stones, and you as the foundation. Jesus is guiding you, even when your steps feel uncertain. And maybe that's why everything has gotten so quiet, because this isn't a time to run, it's a time to listen to what your soul needs, to listen to what heaven is saying, to listen to the gentle voice of the Spirit calling you closer. And this closeness doesn't demand effort. It requires surrender. You don't need to understand everything to trust. You just need to take the next step in faith, because the road that seems deserted today will soon be the very path that leads you to the destination God prepared. And what once seemed confusing will begin to make supernatural sense. Maybe you don't even know how to start over. Maybe it all feels too far gone. But Jesus doesn't need you to be strong. He just needs you to say yes. Yes to being guided. Yes to letting go of what no longer serves you. Yes to starting again. And when you say yes, He will do in 3 days what the world would take years to build. Because where the Holy Spirit touches, transformation is inevitable. God isn't just restoring you. He's repositioning you. What seemed like the end is only the beginning. But this time, it won't be your way. It will be His way. And for that, you need to let the past go. Stop clinging to what was, to what hurt, to what didn't return. Because if you keep holding on to what God already removed, there won't be space for the new He wants to give you. This is the moment to cleanse the temple, to pay attention to what you consume, what you speak, what you allow into your mind and heart. Because God is calling you to live differently, not like the world does, but like someone who carries light. You are not ordinary. You never were. That's why the conventional paths never worked for you, because you were set apart, chosen. And now, you are being refined to live the fullness of your purpose. You'll start to notice that certain environments will begin to bother you. Certain habits will lose their meaning. That's not weakness. That's the Spirit purifying you. Allow yourself to be shaped. Allow yourself to be guided. You don't need to have all the answers, but you need to be willing to say, "Here I am, Lord, do your will in me." And when you embrace this new identity, lighter, more authentic, more connected to heaven, what used to be effort will become flow. What used to be desperation will become peace. Because now you won't be trying to fit in anymore. You'll be walking at the center of God's will. It's time to leave the old behind. The guilt, the masks, the old versions of yourself that no longer make sense. You are not who you were, and that's a blessing. Because Jesus is building something new in you, not to make you fit into the world, but to align you with heaven. You are being called to live with spiritual courage, to trust even when everything feels dark, because the light is not out there, it's inside of you, and it comes from Him. If this message touched your heart, then this is your confirmation. You didn't get here by accident. God brought you, and He wants you to know the rebuilding has already begun. So surrender, trust, and walk. Subscribe to the channel, like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this right now. And above all, don't give up, because the one who began the good work in you will complete it.